Hello and welcome to 3V TV with me, Tony Brown of TonyLBrown.com, creator of the 3V strategy for business development and growth. And we're back, guys, with another season of 3V TV. This is episode number 1. Thank you all for your support. Thank you all for your feedback. It's been great. We've taken a bit of a break, but you know, it's back. We're ready to go. We're just about to go into fall. And it's just great to be here. So what we wanted to do with this season is we're going to cut the fluff, we're going to cut the build up, and we're going to go straight in with some great interviews. And I've got a great interview for you today. I thought, you know, if we're going to kick it off, let's kick it off with some quality. And I've got the opportunity and a privilege to speak to Vinay Patanka, who is a tech entrepreneur based in New York, and he's a CEO of Process Street, and he's going to tell you much more about that once we get into the interview. So, like I said, look forward for another great one. We're going to cover everything: business, branding, digital marketing, but we're going to focus on systems and processes. This is something that, in speaking with entrepreneurs, business owners, etc., marketers, that a lot of people take for granted and a lot of people underestimate the value of. But hopefully by the end of this episode, you're going to appreciate the value of systems and processes in your business. So let's get the man on. Let's welcome Vinay to the show. Vinay, how you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Great to be here, Tony. Thanks for the introduction.
Excellent, no problem. It's great to have you here. Now, what I want you to do before we even get into it, just tell us a little bit about, number one, who you are, how you got started out, and what you're currently working on. So it's over to you, my friend.
Sure. So I'll try and keep this short, but originally I'm from Australia. I was the youngest Cisco engineer in Australia when I was 16. Then worked as a software recruiter, used to recruit developers for the investment banks. JP Morgan, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank. So kind of interviewed like 1,000 engineers before and made some good money doing that. Was able to launch my first company, company, which was also an online company. So that was an e-commerce store. That was like my first kind of experience building a company, kind of started to understand systems. Ran that for a year and a half, sold it, and then launched a lead gen company where we're doing lead gen for consumer finance. So insurance, credit cards, mortgages, that kind of stuff. That was pretty profitable company. I had about 20 people, teams in India, teams in the Philippines, in the US. Ran that for about 4 years. And while I ran that, I was like completely location independent. So it was a completely virtual team. And so I had people in all these different places, and I was traveling. I lived in like Asia and Europe, North and South America. And because of how that company was structured, it really needed to run based on systems, because everybody wasn't in the same room at the same time, always kind of being able to know what everybody's doing and have this kind of easy communication. It was really process driven. People are doing things at different time zones. There's not that much communication. And so really the systems had to power that company. And so that was when I really kind of got experience, defining and building processes and systems. And then that's actually where I came up with the idea and felt the pain for a product like Process Street. And I was looking for a simple way to kind of manage not just the documentation of these systems, and we'll talk about kind of different kinds of processes, where there's like human ones versus automated ones, but not just kind of the documentation, but also the actual execution, automation, and the accountability that things are actually getting done. And so that's when I was looking for a simple kind of workflow process management platform and couldn't find one. And that was the idea behind Process Street. So Process Street, we started about 1.5 years ago. We're now a venture-backed company. We went through AngelPad, which is the #1 accelerator. We have 100 of the Fortune 1000 kind of companies using us, and tons of small businesses everywhere. And things looking really cool.
Excellent, excellent. I mean, looking at what I've seen of Process Street and, you know, what I'm seeing in terms of using it, it's definitely on a route to success from my perspective. Obviously, you can give us a bit more insight about that later on and where you currently sit in.
What are some of the things that you're using Process Street for or thinking about?
You know what? Since I've started, one of my big things is systems and processes. You know, I used to use things like mind maps. I used to try to make processes using mind maps. Then I started trying to use, the little box, the box things in like Pages. That's it. Yeah. So I was always trying to build my own. And then when I came across Process Street, it was like, hey, it's all here. for me. So one of the main things I liked about it was the sample sheets, the ones that are already there. So it's like I've got my workflow, but then on the examples I can see, well, I never considered that, and you know, you can kind of pull from that to add to your current systems, or basically just use the whole sample and the whole template, which is great. And I like the fact that you can export them. You know, you can use like the check sheets, you know, make a tick list out of it and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely, in terms of what I'm seeing of the platform, you know, it's definitely en route to success. What I wanted to ask, Vinay, was in terms of the process, not only of Process Street, but your process as a tech entrepreneur. You know, you said you was in the banking industry, you was doing, you know, what you were doing back in the day. There's been a journey for you from where you were to where you are. Just tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. I mean, it's been pretty a wild ride, I guess, and it's been something that wasn't really kind of planned or structured from the beginning. But I think one of the main things that I think is really important for entrepreneurs, especially people that are looking to start out, is you don't really, you know, planning up very far in the future is generally not a good idea. In startup land, like when we're going to raise money, like an investor, a VC, doesn't want to know anything that's going to happen after 12 months, maybe 18 months at the most. And if you try and convince him that you know what's going to happen after 18 months, he's going to think you're an idiot and he's not going to give you money, because like he knows that nobody knows, right? Like, and so you don't project further in the future than that. And especially in technology, which changes a lot faster, right? But I think that in business, I think that's in general, especially if you're doing online business or even small business, which changes really quickly, I think that it's really important to not get too stuck up on like the long term, like, you know, I need to make this big, long, detailed plan of everything that I'm going to do for the next 10 years. And this is like all our projections and everything that's going to happen, because like you don't know what you don't know yet. And once you jump in and you spend 12 months like actually working, you know, day in, day out on your business, you're going to gather all this new data that's going to help you make better decisions that you wouldn't have been able to make when you were sitting there trying to write a business plan before. And I think that like how I've kind of experienced business, and this is actually something that I learned from Richard Branson, who's on your side of the pond.
It sure is, yes. Yeah. I'd like to say he was a friend of mine, but not quite yet.
friend of my dreams. Hang out on Necker Island. No, but his kind of philosophy on business is like the #1 rule in business is survival. Yeah. It's not about being like highly profitable. It's not about being highly efficient. It's not about knowing necessarily what's going to happen in, you know, 1 month, 3 months, a year, whatever. It's just about surviving. And the huge difference between like being an entrepreneur in survival mode and an employee who's just like working in a company is, even if you're not making much money and you're just making enough money to live and you're in survival mode, basically, as you're an entrepreneur, A, you're learning a lot fast, but B, you're now in a position where you can actually capitalize on opportunities that are presented to you. And this is basically what I found happened to me. So I started with a small business. It was a little like niche e-commerce store in Australia. And like, that was never going to make a lot of money. I mean, like it was going to maybe make a little bit of income, you know, 50K, 100K, and that's going to be okay to live. But that wasn't the point. The point was now I'm learning about how to build a business. Now I have employees. Now I have customers. Now I have a list. Now I can network with other people, and I have things that I can offer to other businesses, and I can start to do swaps, and I understand how different things are working. And like all these things start to compound on themselves, and they give you opportunity to you know, A, provide more value to other people, which can create stronger partnerships and relationships. And B, you have all this knowledge in your head that you can use to identify opportunities as they come up. And then you have the systems, you have the time, you have the team, you have like all this stuff already built so you can actually execute on those opportunities as they come through. And that's basically what I found was once I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm running a business, and that was like my first company. It's not making a lot of money, but at least I don't have to work in a job anymore. From there, I started going to conferences, started looking at other opportunities, started testing different ideas and different campaigns and different things, and like things grow on themselves. But like you never have the time and the energy and the resources to do that if you're in a job, right? You come home at the end of the day, you're tired, you don't have any of these things set up, you don't have people that you can just ask to do stuff for you, to test things for you that are already on your payroll. Like you don't have that. And so you're in this really kind of limited, constrained capacity. And so for me, it was always just about surviving. And then like preparing myself to capitalize on opportunities as they came. So that means, you know, putting money in the bank, getting systems, freeing up my time on things that I'm currently doing in my business and automating them so that I can test other things and new ideas and build new revenue streams or launch new products and test different things and see how they work. And that's kind of been my kind of MO is survive first, you know, learn as much as you can. And then with that, you know, test new things. And if you test enough things and you optimize your tests each time based on what you learn, you're going to hit, right? Like how many companies did Richard Branson start before like he actually hit? He started one, went like this, then down, and he just kept going, just kept going. Didn't make any money. Didn't take a salary for like 5 years or something, right? Yeah. Like, and then boom, like that one hits, right? Like after, you know, 5 years of optimization, then the next one hits, the next one hits. And like, that's when you start growing. But like, if he just took a job for that 5 years, and didn't like learn all that stuff beforehand and didn't get all that data, didn't run all those tests, then he wouldn't have been in a position to be able to capitalize on those future opportunities. He would have not been able to do that. And so that kind of lead up time, I think like a lot of people get scared of it. They think that like, oh, I don't want to quit my job and then like start this company and then like not make much money. And my friends, you know, I think like people like their expectations are too high. Like they shouldn't be thinking, oh, you know, they see all these kind of the ads on the internet and all the products that are on the internet, like get rich quick kind of things. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to quit my job. And then they tell all their friends, like, yeah, I'm going to start an internet company. And then they build all this pressure on them. Yeah, I'm going to make millions of dollars, like, you know, in 3 months. And I think it's a really bad way to start. I think like the way that you should start is just say, hey, look, I'm going to go in this and I'm just going to learn for a year. I'm not going to really have like, these wild expectations, because then like if you like the problem is people set these high expectations. Some people hit them, that's great, maybe you've had a few of them in your show, but like the majority of people don't. The majority of people quit their job, they set these high expectations, they don't hit them, and then they go back to their job, and then that's it, right? Like, and I think that's like a really kind of fast way to fail.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think also that's the realistic way. You know, like you said, you go on the internet, you see all these, you know, all these pictures on Instagram of Lamborghinis and Bentleys and Phantoms, and you know, people sort of with this promise of success, and people think that's entrepreneurialism. You know, that's being your own boss. However, you know, for those that are actually doing it and those that are in the trenches, really living it, they know that, like you said, it's you know, ups and downs. It's you have a peak. You know, you might have a great month where, you know, you've broke even. You may have even made some profit, and then you may have 2 months where you're scraping by, thinking, you know, I might have to start dipping into my reserves. And right. that's just the reality of it. Like you said, it's survival. It is survival. So, I mean, you mentioned a few things. What are some of the strategies that you could share with those who are in that process to help them to survive that?
I think being you know, it really depends on what your position is, but I think, you know, for me, when I started, I didn't have much money. I wasn't trying to raise money or anything. I was just trying to kind of bootstrap as I went. So I think that, you know, being scrappy is really important. I think like there are some things you can spend money on and some things you shouldn't spend money on. Like, I don't feel that, you know, spending 2 hours to go to the grocery store every day to save like 30 cents is like a wise spend of money. But I think that, you know, spending a week learning how to use WordPress so that you can build your own website instead of paying $5,000 for an agency is, you know, I think that you're better off spending, you know, $300 getting food quickly through that week and then spending that whole week learning WordPress and building your own website instead of like spending, you know, 10 hours that week trying to save like a few pennies on a few different bills and like not learning anything and then like paying $5,000 to a web agency to like build a website that you probably could have done in a week anyway. Yeah. So I think it's like being smart about what you spend your money on. And generally, I think that you shouldn't be spending money on anything high ticket initially. Don't spend a lot of money on logos. Don't spend a lot of money on websites. Really kind of control that spend. And then really pick like what you're going to focus on and then focus on getting that profitable. Doesn't need to be highly profitable. It just needs to be profitable. And then try and systemize it. And then once you've systemized parts of that, so you can reduce the amount of time that you're actually spending operating that venture. So for me, it was like the e-commerce store. So it was like, you know, first I got to figure out the product, and then I got to find customers, and then I have to do fulfillment, and then I have to do support. So those are like the main things, right? And then once I did all of that on my own. I did my own website, I found my own customers, I did my own support, I did my own fulfillment. And then I slowly started like systemizing things. So then I'm like, okay, I don't want to do fulfillment anymore. So then I found a company that would handle all my shipping. And then I'm like, I don't want to do support anymore. So then I found another. So now my job is, and then like the website's already built. That's like an automated system that you can build. You can automate a lot of your emails and your website, your conversion tests and that kind of stuff. And it's really, now I'm just left with one thing, which is marketing. And so suddenly I just like cut out all these things from my business. And so there's two things that you could do at that point. You can either scale that business with the extra time that you just got for yourself, or you can look at launching something else, or a different product, or a different revenue stream, or do consulting or whatever. But I think that, you know, being extremely lean to get something profitable, and then trying to systemize that as much as possible and free up your time so that you can focus on either launching new projects into that same venture that will scale that venture, either on marketing or on conversions or on a deeper product line, or actually looking at a different product line or a different business and actually scaling that way. And like building the systems to do that is just like so important, because if you're spending all day, answering support tickets, and this is actually kind of getting to the point where it's at with Process Street, because on support tickets, and we don't have anybody that's dedicated for support. It's a little bit different because we're doing product development, so we actually need to talk to our customers to learn like what we need to build. It's not like we have like a completed product. If you're selling T-shirts or something, like you're not really going to be iterating on those T-shirts. You're just selling them, right? And generally your support's going to be like, oh, I didn't get my T-shirt. Oh, it's the wrong color. It's not like, oh, I couldn't figure out like how to use this T-shirt, so can you change it slightly, right? Like, so it's a little bit different, but it's still getting to the point where now I spend so much time on sales and support that it's kind of difficult for me to launch new projects. And so, I mean, I kind of am where I'm building out the development team, and that's like what I'm focused on now, but it's going to get to a point where I'm going to have to bring somebody else in, systemize support, systemize the sales, so then I can focus on other projects like scaling on marketing and things like that.
Yeah. There's a lot in there I want to unpick. Firstly, what I want to ask is, you spoke about the process and the development and the growth of the e-commerce business. I'm interested to know what happened to that, and what was the transition like from the exit of that to where you are now. Did you just pull the plug on it? Did it fail? What happened? You sold the company?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I sold that. I sold it to a guy in Australia. It was an Australian like e-commerce store, so couldn't really go global. I mean, I didn't really like I was selling in the beauty niche, women's beauty, and I was selling like wholesale to nail salons, and so it wasn't really a product that I was passionate about. I'm passionate about business and marketing and building systems, and so all that was cool, websites, etc. But the actual product is, I'm not a user of the product, so how can I be passionate about it, right? Like, so that was one of the things I wanted to do, something that I was a bit more passionate about, and I had a bit more, had a bit more knowledge, like innate knowledge about, right?
And sorry, did you go into it intentionally to sell it?
Well, no, I went into it intentionally to build something that I could systemize, and that I could run remotely. So that was like the intention of it. I actually read the 4-Hour Workweek, so basically the story was I was planning to go traveling, like backpacking for 6 months. And then while I was kind of gearing up for that, I read the 4-Hour Workweek, and I was like, whoa, I can make money while I travel. That's the greatest idea I've ever heard. And like real money, right? Not like teaching English in China for like $5 an hour, right? Like actually make like real money, It's like equivalent to kind of what I'm making, like if I keep my corporate job, right? And so basically that was like the test period where I just took that 6 month. I kind of started about 3 months before I left, picking ideas and kind of getting a basic site up and stuff like that. And then I actually started ran that, got like kind of some initial customers, figured out fulfillment, and then I left to go travel. So when I started traveling, I had fulfillment figured out, and then I was doing support and marketing and the website, and then fulfillment was already going, and then I can continue to kind of build that. So, and then after 6 months, I was making enough money that I didn't have to go back to my job. So then I just kept traveling. Did that for about another year, running that website. Went back to Australia and then sold it. And then from there, I actually went to to the US and I started going to a lot of the conferences. So I started going
Okay.
so like I'd all been online so far. So I hadn't really been engaging with people in like the internet space in person. I'd been meeting people online, on forums, that kind of stuff, reading about SEO and AdWords. That was how we got most of our traffic. SEO, AdWords, and then just outbound email to nail salons in Australia where we just get on Odesk and scrape lists and then just do outbound. That was pretty much forum sponsoring. That worked well as well, actually. So there was like some nail forums in Australia, and I'd sponsor the forums.
Okay.
And so I was just learning all this on my own. And by the time that I sold the website, you know, I knew about SEO, I knew about AdWords, I knew about email marketing, I knew about conversion optimization. And so I had like some skill sets, and I started, you know, I saw all these products, people making all this money. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And then I started, you know, I bought a few of the courses and kind of went through them and learned a few different things. And anyway, the most important thing though was actually going to the US and going to conferences and actually meeting people in person and building real relationships with people that were already many leaps and bounds ahead of me and like where they were at with their businesses, already doing, you know, 5 or 6 figures a month in revenue. So yeah, I basically did that, you know, Blog World, which is like New Media Expo now, and Affiliate Summit and LeadsCon and those kinds of conferences. And did that for about a year and kind of tested a bunch of different ideas and ended up partnering with some guys in Arizona, and then kind of set up an office there and started doing lead gen. And then so that was the lead gen company that I ran for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And that all came from someone that I met at a conference.
Okay. What's your business or entrepreneurial education? Do you have any formal education? Did you go to uni or, you know?
Yeah, I dropped out of finance in Sydney. So like I was in the top finance school in Sydney and I dropped out after 2 years.
Okay. And pursued your traveling dream?
Yeah, well, no, I actually was working. So it was basically my dad took a job in China and I didn't have any money, and I had to get a job to live because it's just like Sydney's super expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I ended up getting a job as a recruiter, and I was recruiting for the banks, software developers. I have a technical background as well before that, so I'm kind of like IT and business. So yeah, I do have a bit of an education. It's something that I was always really, really interested in as well, like from a young age. So I was reading business books, and I was trading stocks when I was 18, and very much kind of into that space. But in Australia, it's at least it's probably getting better now, but it was very kind of traditional, you know. This is how you make money. You get a career and then you go work for a bank, right? Like, and then you work up the ranks, and then you get a house, and then you buy another house in that house, and then you have 10 houses when you're 60. Like, that's how you make money.
Yeah. Keep your head down, be a good employee, and work away the ladder. Yeah.
And I didn't really like that.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, my dad always used to say, you know, just keep your head down. Where I was working in a local authority, you got a job for life, and it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. I'm gonna show you something, and I wanna know your response to this. How important is this to you?
Oh yeah, really important. Awesome book. Everyone should read that book if they want to know anything about running a business.
Yeah.
Checklist Manifesto as well.
What about this one?
Oh yeah, actually I haven't read that.
You haven't read this?
I have it on my list. No.
Okay, yeah, business model generation. I mean, as I'm hearing you talk,
I mean, I studied that in university, but I haven't read that particular book.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a reader; it's more of a sort of a manual or a reference book in terms of the whole process. I was going to reach for the Lean Startup, but I've got the audio version. How important is that?
So that's really important to me, but I don't think that's that important to most small business owners, because that's a lot about product development. And I think most small business owners don't build products like startups do. Like a startup product, you know, Salesforce is being built for 11 years by 1,000 people. Like, it's very different when you're building a product of that scope to when you're just running maybe you're flipping a product that's already built, or you're building a product that only takes 1 to 3 months to build, like an info product or something like that. It's a very, very different way of running a business, because your business is not revolved around building a product, which is the case, you know, like Process Street, like so far, has cost many hundreds of thousands of dollars to build, and will cost many, many millions of dollars to build, to, like when it's complete, right? Or it will never be complete, but like when it gets to a point that it's really ready. And any product that you really use on the internet that's like Trello or Basecamp or something, it's cost like tens of millions of dollars to build that product, right? Like it's a very expensive operation. So unless you're planning on building a product that costs $10 million plus, I don't think the lean startup is as relevant, because it's very much about product development. E-Myth, the 4-Hour Workweek, Checklist Manifesto, those kinds of books are really important for building systems. And systems apply across whether or not you're a startup or not. I mean, in startup, systems don't matter so much in the product development team, but in your HR, in your sales, in your marketing, in your operations, in your finance, like the systems are all really important, right? So like all the other elements and those are the elements that are, that cross all businesses, right? But the big one that is not across all businesses is like building a $10 million software product. Like that's pretty unique to software startups. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
Go on. Sorry.
What's your favorite kind of systems book?
I mean, for me, the game changer was definitely the E-Myth. You know, I kind of went into this very much with a technical mindset. You know, I was gonna build. I was at risk of creating a job for myself, basically. And then when I was on a train going to a training session in London, I was going to go and deliver some training in London, and I'd slept on the E-Myth for a number of years. I'd hear people talking about it, mention it on podcasts, and I thought I'm going to check this book out and see what all the hype's about.
Yeah.
And I got sort of midway through chapter 1, and I had to start again with a highlighter pen, and I was just like, this it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I quickly changed my approach in terms of the business I was developing, and I needed to get out of that business. So for me, that was definitely the game changer.
Yeah.
And then obviously the follow-up to that was E-Myth Mastery. I don't know if you've read that one.
No, I haven't.
What I would say is get the audio version. It's a quick listen, and it is very much about systemizing, the processes. So
Nice.
yeah, that was a real game changer for me.
Yeah, I think like anybody that comes from a role that's basically not an operations role. So if you come from any kind of technical role, from a sales role, from a marketing role, from a support role, you probably have never been exposed to systems. And so if you're trying to start a business and like that's your background, really read something like E-Myth, because it could basically change whether or not your business is successful or not.
Yeah.
Very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I went for lunch at this cafeteria a few years ago. I was still an employee at the time, and I was talking to the woman behind the desk, and I said, "Have you ever read the E-Myth?" And she was like, "I've got it actually, but I've never read it." And I mean, she basically told me that she tried to launch another branch of a cafeteria, but it failed. And that's what prompted me to ask the question. I says, "Well, how did it fail?" She says, "Oh, I was spending time here, and I was trying to spend time at that branch as well, and it just didn't work." And I said, "Have you read the E-Myth?" And she says, "I've got it actually, but I've never read it." I said, "You need to read that book."
She didn't build a system before she launched. She didn't systemize her current cafe before she launched the next one.
That's it.
Actually, we have a lot of people that use Process Street for that exact reason, where they're looking to expand their business location. So we have like franchises and people that are just looking to expand, and they'll come in and then they'll basically spend 6 months completely systemizing that business, because basically you want to get it to a point where you open a new store, you hire a manager, you give the manager a Process Street account, boom. Like that's it, and then everything runs like clockwork, right? I mean, that's how McDonald's works,
Yeah. Okay, so for those that that don't know, they've never been to Process Street. We're talking a lot about systems and processes, and we're mentioning it. Just give us kind of the dummy's guide to what is Process Street.
Yeah. So just quickly, and I think we kind of jumped into a few things, but just kind of a high level. Processes are important. They're important for a few things. They help maintain quality in everything that gets done. So everything gets done consistent, high level quality. They help you scale your company. Just like that example we just talked about. It's very difficult to open a new location, to launch another team, to launch another project. If you're already, and like I talked about before, if you're already spending 40 hours a week answering support tickets, like you're just not going to have the time to kind of do something else. And so systemizing what you're currently doing frees up your time so that you can launch something else, whether that be a new location, a new product line, create a new team, whatever. So it's really important for scaling. It helps with the sustainability and longevity of your company, because inevitably you're going to have employee turnover. And so when there are systems in place, it really helps the rehiring, retraining, and getting up to speed of those employees. It stops really important employees who hold a lot of the knowledge of how the processes work walking out on you with those processes in their head. If there's a manager at that's like the main manager in your business, and he's the only person that knows how to do like the accounting and the reporting, and like suddenly something happens, he gets a better job offer, there's a family sickness, whatever, and he has to go. Yeah, that's not written down anywhere. Like your business will come to a halt straight away. And like you never know what's going to happen. Like bad things can happen, and those are the types of things that can really just like kill a business like that, right? And then just improving the efficiency. So like systemization automates things. So whether you want to launch new projects or whether you actually just want more time for yourself, you want to not be crazy, working your business 80 hours a week or whatever, it's important for all that. So there's two kind of main ways of building processes. In the past, kind of before computers and mainly before computers, automation was pretty hard. Like there was some automation, Henry Ford automating the factory. That's like a process. But generally processes and systems were essentially sets of tasks that people would have to do. So it's like, this is how we hire somebody. This is how we fire somebody. This is how we do this report. This is how we put in a purchase order. This is how we cash a check. And all those things are processes that allow basically people to switch out. So if somebody moves to a different department, if somebody quits, somebody else comes in, they follow this process. But now with like the computer, the computer era, the internet era, there's like a kind of, it's come to a point where every person can actually access automation. You don't need to build a factory, right? You can just use Zapier or use a SaaS product, and that's going to automate part of your workflow. So there's like, that's like a kind of important thing to understand. Like there's kind of two different kinds of processes. So there's things that you can completely automate, and then things that still need to get done by people. The vision for Process Street is that we're a complete process management solution. So we help you both with the things that you automate and with things that need to get done by people. And so some things have to get done by people: a sales process, a marketing process, any type of on-site implementation, training, onboarding, all that kind of stuff like requires people and always will require people, basically customer-facing teams. But then there's a lot of things that you can automate. So you can automate, your banking. So you can automatically pull your transactions from your bank account into your accounting software, and you don't have to manually like type them out every time, which like I used to have to do as an accountant undergrad, right? Or your signing of documents. So instead of like mailing a document and having somebody sign it and mail it back, you can use HelloSign or DocuSign and like automatically like have that contract signed digitally, and it keeps an audit trail. And that's a system, right? If you are currently spending 4 hours a day downloading a printed transaction from your bank statement and then typing in every transaction into a system, you shouldn't be writing a process as to how do I do that. You should be installing software that does that automatically, right? Like, so there are some things that like should be documented, you should create processes for, and there are some things that you should just completely automate. And if you can automate it and you can automate it cheap, that's always the best option. And so there are some things that you can automate completely within one app. And so that was the example that I just gave you, the banking. And there are some things and what's happening now with like the adoption of SaaS and cloud, and most small businesses using multiple SaaS products, is like now we're starting to look at automation between apps. So it's like, once a contract is signed, add a task for this person to send them the inventory, or automatically send them the inventory. Or automatically notify this other team to get them to start the design on the web process, on the development process, or whatever, right? So there are things that start happening where you can actually automate things between apps. And so what Process Street does is, at a basic level, we're a repository for you to keep all your documentation on processes. Things that are done manually, don't document your automated things, just automate them. And then secondly, we're kind of taking that to the next level. So traditionally you have, okay, these are my documentation, and then somebody will come in, they'll read the documentation when they start, and then they'll go and they'll do the process, and then if they forget, maybe they'll refer to the documentation. What we're trying to do is we combine everything together. So we manage your documentation. We also help you execute the workflow and track that that's being done effectively and help you collaborate around that workflow. And then the next stage is we also are working to help you automate your workflows as much as possible between apps and different systems. One of the most common processes, the process sheet, is a client onboarding, and they'd be like, this is what we need to do every time a new client comes in to get them set up, to get them in our system properly, and then to deliver their product. Say you're like a web design agency. So every time a new client comes in, first you need to set them up in the system, you need to get contracts signed, you need to agree on project dates and timelines. Then you need to do an initial requirements gathering meeting, figure out what they're actually looking for. Then you need to give them the first proposal and the second proposal and the first iteration and the second iteration and like the final delivery. And that's like the process. That's probably involving multiple different software products, your CRM, your project management system, your billing system and invoicing system. And it's probably involving multiple teams, sales, creative, development. And so if that's your process, like traditionally what people would do is they'd document it and they'd write a Word document and say, okay, this is what we need to do every time a new client comes in. First, sales needs to fill out these things, and then they need to send an email to this person, and then that person needs to do some things. And we need to log in this system and do some things and send them a contract, and we need to log in this system and collect the money. And then like development needs to be notified, and they need to start working. Creative needs to be notified, and then like the coordinator needs to keep everyone together. And like you put all that in a piece of paper, right? What we'll do is we'll actually take that document, put it into like a checklist workflow, and then like every time a new client comes in, we'll automatically trigger the process from Salesforce or whatever your CRM is. We'll notify development, we'll notify creative, we'll notify finance, saying new clients just come in, it's time for you to start working on these things. These are all the different things you need to do. All the documentation's there, links to all the different apps are in there. We can fire hooks into different apps to automatically send contracts and the invoices. And then we actually give the team a place to communicate and collaborate around that project. And we give an audit trail on everything that gets done, so you can do reporting and management can see like what the status is of all the different clients and where they're at with that onboarding. And so we're kind of like a process management platform on steroids. And the kind of end goal is, if you need to do anything with your processes, whether you need to document them, whether you need to track them or communicate around them, or whether you want to automate them, you're the place to go is Process Street. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, as a CEO of the company, I mean, you've just sort of given me a real overview of that. There's a lot of intricacies in making that happen. What's your kind of day-to-day business? What do you focus on day-to-day?
So there's no answer to that when you're a startup, because like basically every 3 months it changes as the company grows. So the first 3 months was doing a lot of brainstorming about the product and kind of figuring out like what the actual product's going to be, naming it, figuring that kind of stuff out, and then you're actually building the product, and now you're doing a lot of customer development, talking to customers, and then now you're starting to market the next 3 months, and I'm bringing in marketing. And then kind of it just goes on, right? And then it changes, and then you're fundraising, and then it's like 6 months of fundraising, and you're like an accelerator, and then now it's hiring, and it's building the team, it's building processes, and it's doing sales, it's dealing with more enterprise customers, it's dealing with the investors. So it changes a lot. But like on a day-to-day, like my kind of right now, support and sales. I manage the marketing team, so I'm always doing like content reviews and identifying opportunities for doing content things like this. And then like planning what's going on in the future. So first, I need to start spending money that we've raised. I need to hire developers. Then I need to start executing on other projects. So we need to rebuild the marketing website. We need to rebuild the autoresponder and trigger emails from everything. We need to rebuild like the user guide, and then we need to do a new intro video. And we have all these I'm just like managing all these different projects all the time. And either trying to hire people to do them or trying to do them myself if like I can't hire people to do them.
Yeah. And what's your biggest?
Just balancing like 50 plates at once.
Spinning it all going from process to process.
Well, once I get one plate kind of the system built well, that kind of stabilizes a little bit, and then I'll leave it there. I'll come back and look at it in a month or two and do an optimization tweak, and then I'll come back again, and I'm just like constantly like optimizing them as they're going out.
Yeah. And are you scratching your own itch in terms of using the products you've developed to develop the product?
Yeah, we all
You're,
use Process Street every
yeah,
day. Yeah.
yeah, that's excellent.
You
'Cause
have,
obviously,
you have to use
as you
them,
use
but
it on the ground, as you use it yourself, you can begin to tweak it, make improvements. You'll pick things up as you're going along. So the more you use it to build it, the better it's going to get. So it's a win-win.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a couple of the processes that we run on Process Street. So content promotion is a big one. That was like the first main one that I put in. So we run a content promotion process on content that we publish, and then content that we're mentioned in, featured in. So we call that like guest post or mention promotion. And so this podcast, videocast would be a guest post piece of content. So I'll actually put this into our content promotion cycle. And if you want to know what that is, like we have like an advanced content promotion checklist. You can just Google that, probably pop up first. Basically every time, a blog post gets published on our blog, I have a Zapier trigger that looks for that post that gets published. It automatically launches a checklist, assigns it to my content promotion team that says, okay, these are all the things we need to do to promote the post. We need to, share it on Reddit and our social media accounts. We need to email everybody that we mentioned in the post, and we need to go and find some core answers that we can that are related to this post and answer them, and go and find some blog posts that are related and put in the comments, and basically like a series of promotional activities that we do. And then we do something similar but slightly different, whether it's like content on our domain or whether it's content off our domain. And so that's like a pretty big one that gets run very frequently. Another one is like blog post pre-publish checklist. So before you actually hit publish on a blog post, we run through this checklist and we make sure the style guides are hit and all the links are working and all the formatting's correct and everything like that. So we can control quality on that. Then we have I have weekly processes. So on Process Street, you can schedule things to if there's a process that happens every week or day or month or whatever, so a monthly cash flow report or something like that. But I have basically weekly task lists for a few of my team. And so every week they have a set of tasks to do, and then they have floating tasks as well. So we use that for their set recurring tasks. And then we have a new engineer, for example, that started, and then for the first month we basically do a daily meeting. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? What do you need help with? Basically answer those 3 questions. We create a process for that fires every day. The answers to the meeting get put in Process Street. So we have kind of a history of all those meetings and all the objectives and tasks of each day for that person. So that's kind of how we're using it right now. Yeah. We do a testing checklist as well. So when we push a new version of the app, we'll run through all the things we want to test on the app and make sure everything's working before we actually release it.
Yeah, excellent. And what's your biggest struggle at the moment?
Oh, finding world-class engineers. Anybody has 10 years experience in JavaScript and Scala, hit me up.
Yeah.
You'll be in good equity, or seed funded, big opportunities. Give me a call.
Yeah. there you go, guys. Hit me up. And I mean, I have to take my hat off to you as well. Obviously, when I signed up, I got an email, which initially I thought this is just one of those automated emails you get when you sign up. Hey, it's the CEO. Thanks for signing up. And I saw at the bottom there was your Skype ID, and I thought let me Skype him and see if it's for real. And before you know it, we were having a conversation back and forth, and I was like, you know what? Respect, I take my hat off to this guy because it just kind of, I respected the openness and the willingness to kind of connect with the users, and though your customers, your clients, and I think a lot of people can learn a lot from that. And lo and behold, here we are having this conversation.
Yeah, so. I think that you hear a lot of horror stories in the startup world, and I mean, depending on what your business, maybe this is in lead gen, speaking to our customers wasn't really that important. I mean, our customers are basically lead brokers. They're pretty much sharks anyway, but it's not as important. I have 5 or 10 lead brokers.
Yeah.
Even if I'm addicted to them, they're still going to take my leads. But when you're lean startup, we'll hammer this a lot. But when you're building a product that's never been built before, that nobody actually knows what to do, everything's very intuitive based, right? There's nothing you can follow before because it's never been done before. And talking to customers is the most important way to actually help create your roadmap moving forward. And yeah, the lean startup, we'll talk about this a lot. But it's amazing the impact. So I recently did I wanted to get some reviews on a website that's like a directory site to help us get better rankings. And so I've sent out like a message and, had this big kind of flow of reviews come in. And like, I'm looking down the reviews and like 80 or 90% of the people that reviewed are people that I've spoken to on the phone before. Right. Like it's like really makes a big difference. Right. Like it will reduce your churn, it'll improve your conversions, it'll improve your referrals. Like it helps you understand what your customers do and helps you build a better product. It's just like invaluable. And so that's why I still spend a lot of time every day doing support and sales, even though I could hire somebody else to do it. It adds more value to us as a company based on all those things that I just told you than just purely like supporting a customer. Right.
Yeah, I think for me as well, it says a lot about the brand, and that kind of leads into what I wanted to ask about in terms of your approach to branding. Obviously, I don't even know how I came across Process Street. I can't remember how I came across it, but I saw it. It was for me. I signed up, started using it straight away, downloaded some of the templates, found them extremely useful. And then obviously, like I said, that email came through and I was like, wow, we've made that connection now. You were happy to engage with me, which was great. And it said a lot about the brand itself, as a CEO, being willing to do that. So tell us a little bit about your approach to branding.
Yeah, honestly, branding is not something that I think about too much. And this is, maybe I have a bit of a kind of head block around this, but generally my perspective is that like branding is more for consumer than it is for B2B. Yeah. In general, we're more about direct marketing than we are about branding. And just because there's only generally one person in a company who's going to be like the decision maker for us. If it's a small to medium, if it's an enterprise, then there's decision makers in different departments and different teams or whatever. But it's just like our reach for branding is not that great. Like our target market is like a very small specific market. It's not like we sell shoes or Coca-Cola or something. Like literally everybody in the world is a potential customer, right? Like they're not. Yeah. Firstly, you need to run a business, so you need to be a manager in a business. So that's like 0.1% of the world right there. And then you need to be specifically in operations, specifically need processes, specifically be like a knowledge worker in front of a computer. It just like cuts down like that so much that just doing broad branding doesn't really, and if you kind of think about it, like how many big B2B companies do you know that do a lot of branding? Like IBM, maybe a little bit, HP, I don't know. Think about it. Like you can't really even name 10 companies that that are big B2B companies that do tons of branding. Oracle, maybe. Everybody else sells to consumers. And so, yeah, it's not something that I've really focused on too much. I think that's something that we'll think about at a larger kind of scale. But I think from a smaller perspective, like, once somebody is exposed to Process Street, like as a user, or they're exposed to a piece of our content, the two kind of things that we want to get across is, customer happiness, customer service is really, really important to us. So we want to try and engage their users as much, be as available to our users as much as possible, and try and like help them not just like with our product, but with their business, with their processes, with their systems as a whole. So that's something that we really focus on. And then the other thing that we like to try and, position ourselves as are people that do use a lot of processes and systems ourselves internally. So, we like to say we use our own product and we use a lot of other products. We use all the different apps out there. We're big on productivity, big on systems, big on using like any of the available resources to improve efficiency, to increase automation, to improve quality. And so you'll see a lot of our content is around that. It's around productivity. It's around integrations and workflows and systemizing parts of your business, and really kind of help improve efficiency and automation to like save time and money for companies. And so that's like our main goal. We believe Process Street can help a lot of people do that, but not everybody. But if we can help people just whether they use Process Street or not, implement systems, free up time, make more money, be less stressed, then we're happy.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about, number one, the tech tools you use on a daily basis, and also who you think your competitors are in the market. Are there some of the ones you're currently using? So tell us about some of the tech tools you currently use.
Yeah. So I love tech tools. Okay, so my CRM is close.io. If you don't have a CRM, check that out. They're awesome. They have this really cool like inbox snoozing task management feature, and they have this like synced inbox. It's really,
was
really
that
cool.
closed? Did you say?
Close.io, yeah, like closing a
Okay.
sale.
Yeah.
So that's like my CRM. I use AnyDo for task management. AnyDo, they're another angel pad company, which is kind of one of the reasons I use them. But actually, I really like they have like this AnyDo moment, which is like a focus thing. And I'm big on like products that don't have to make me organize things ahead of time.
Yeah.
I don't like to have to make a decision when I'm adding a task. I don't like to have to make a decision when I'm adding a contact or something. I like to make that decision when I'm processing my tasks, not when I'm adding them. And so AnyDo has the same kind of snooze functionality. And actually, I wrote a post on this recently, but basically every day you open up your task list and it's like, okay, these are the things on your task list today, right? It's like, okay, these are the 20 things on your task list. And basically you go through each one and then you're like, do you want to do this today or do you want to do this sometime in the future? And you hit sometime and then it's like tomorrow, 2 days, next week. And you just basically go through all your 30 tasks for the day and you push off the ones that you're not going to do today and you keep the ones that you're going to do today and you cut it down to a list of like 5 or 6 or whatever. And that gives you your task list for the day. And you have this huge long task list in the back, but you never need to look at it because each day new ones surface and you just push them back and push them back and push them back. And it's a really efficient way of dealing with tasks and with emails as well. Then Evernote, love Evernote. So that's, again, following the same kind of idea of things that I just dump in and I don't need to organize. So Evernote, I have a Gmail filter set up so that every attachment I receive gets forwarded to Evernote. And then I use their screenshot functionality a lot in their note taking. I have Zaps set up so that I can automatically add tasks to my team. So for my team, I use Trello to manage most team tasks. And then so in Evernote, I have like a Zap that's set up. So I can take a screenshot in Evernote. I can annotate it in Evernote with like arrows and some text. And then I tag it like Ben tasks. And that automatically takes that note and creates a card in Evernote through Zapier that creates a task for him with like the screenshot that I took. So it's like a really quick way to kind of dump tasks to my team that way. And then Zapier, you use Zapier for a lot of things, which is basically a tool to integrate different apps together. So with Zapier, I can create a Zap that says every time I have a note that is tagged with this tag in Evernote, automatically create a card in Trello and pull in the data from the note. So pull in that screenshot and dump it into Trello. So you can do all sorts of crazy Zapier integrations that way, and that's a big one that I use as well. And then obviously Process Street.
Yeah, okay. And how many of them do you think are your competitors?
I don't think any of those are our competitors. So there are other competitors that are kind of in this in startup mode that kind of do like process documentation. There's a couple of like smaller workflow products, and then but really our real competitors are IBM, Oracle, SAP, and those are the companies that really have like the big workflow products, and that's where we want to get Process Street to. We want to be able to we want to be a platform that small businesses and individuals can use as well, but really where we're going to make our money is selling into the enterprise. And so that's like where we're going with the product. We're building out more powerful workflow functionality while still keeping the kind of very clean, simple, consumerized approach. And we're following companies like Zendesk and Slack and stuff like that, where they kind of start with a product that services small businesses, and then as they get bigger and bigger, they go out into the enterprise. And all those systems, like the workflow products that most banks use, that most oil companies use, that most governments use, like half of them are running on mainframes. They're just like these really ridiculous, old, clunky kind of products. And we're positioning ourselves to be a key player in the enterprise cloud workflow space. So as these companies start to migrate off their on-premise solutions and start adopting cloud, we're going to be there to help them connect everything together.
Yeah, excellent. I can't believe it's 8:57. We've been going through for almost an hour, and there's still a lot. There's still a lot more we could talk about. I mean, we haven't even spoke about how you raised the money, the process of doing that. What I do want to do every episode, I could imagine. I could imagine. Every episode in season 1, every episode I would have what I call a quick fire round, where I'll just throw some questions out to the guests. It was a multiple choice option, so you can only pick one answer. There's two options, you can only pick one answer, and people enjoyed it. So I'm going to run with it again right here in season 2. So there's no deliberating. You can't phone a friend. You can't hesitate. I just want your
Google.
answer. Yeah, no googling. So are you ready for the quick fire round?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it then. Instagram or Twitter?
Twitter.
Pen and paper or laptops and tablets?
Laptops and tablets.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Quiet night in or big night out?
If it's a weekend, big night out.
Facebook or Google Plus?
Facebook. Does Google Plus doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, who cares? I know. Even though we're on a Google platform right now, sorry Google, don't shut us down when you finish the interview yet.
Hangouts are awesome. Most Google products are awesome, but yeah, just not Google Plus.
Okay. Steve Jobs or Bill Gates?
Ooh, I like both of them a lot. Probably Bill Gates, I think. Okay. I mean, just because Bill Gates is he's a lot more in the B2B space than I think Steve Jobs is. So there's a lot more that I can kind of align to there. Okay. But yeah, I mean, both of them are amazing.
Yeah, excellent. Work from home or in the office?
The home office.
Okay, audio book or paper-based?
Audio.
Excellent. What else? Where could we go? Nike or Adidas?
Nike, but don't really use either.
Yeah. Same here. I had one guess, and it was like, he was a big fan of Converse, so I threw that one out there to him. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay, and we'll leave it there before we start going off the rails. But yeah, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so like I said, we've been going at it for an hour. It's been a privilege. I've learned so much, and I'm sure the viewers have learned a lot, not only about the importance of implementing systems and processes in your business, but also about hearing from someone who has built and is still building a successful business themselves. So I appreciate you giving your time to us, and I appreciate all the insights you've shared. Before we go, just let us know if people do want to find out a bit more about Process Street or a bit more about yourself as an entrepreneur. Where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So visit Process Street, www.process.st, or just type Process Street into Google. And you can find me on Twitter, VinayP10.
Excellent.
Place.
Excellent. Before we depart, any final words or any advice you would like to give to an up-and-coming entrepreneur who's watching this and they're saying, "Oh, I want to build something as successful as what Vinay has done"? What would you say to them?
Sure. Yeah. So step one, just do it. Don't worry about succeeding. Just worry about surviving. And then step two, once you've got something working, systemize it.
Excellent. What was that quote from our favorite book? It was build a business that is systems dependent, not people dependent.
Exactly. There you go.
Excellent. Okay, Vinay, thank you very much for being with us. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to have you. Yeah, no problem. Really cool. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to engaging with you again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Right. Can't wait.
All right, guys, listen. Yeah, you as well. Take care. All the best.
Cheers. Bye.
Okay.